Hey, what's up guys? Jake from Tech here, and today we're going to talk about some tech topics you can learn about if you happen to have some downtime during these strange times in the world. So I have definitely tried to do my best with my YouTube videos and my Instagram posts. Those are the main two social media platforms I really participate on. But I've really tried my best to not mention what's going on in the world at all, just keeping it like it's a normal day and the COVID-19 pandemic hasn't happened, which is the far opposite from what a lot of people are doing. Everybody's talking about it, of course, news, social media outlets, all the bunch of YouTubers, you name it. And I think at the end of the day, I'm sick of hearing about it. You're sick of hearing about it. The birds and all the animals outside are sick of hearing about it. But with that being said, I wanted to take advantage of maybe if you happen to have some downtime right now, some different tech topics you can learn about. And there's a couple things in this video that I've been kind of messing with lately that I thought maybe you guys, if you do have some downtime and would like to learn some new skills, learn some new things, maybe these are some topics that you can look into for yourselves. And maybe it's something you'll really enjoy. Maybe it's something you can bring into your professional work or whatever it might be. Maybe it's something you can utilize. So I thought this is a video that would really bring some value. So I actually developed a small list of just a few very broad topics to go over. They definitely had a few things as far as criteria goes. Number one, I wanted all this stuff to be open source for you guys. All of it's completely free to learn the way I'm accessing it, as far as the software goes, as far as the training goes. So that was the biggest criteria when I decided to make a video like this. And as far as the training goes, most of it actually is done on YouTube. There's just so many great channels out there that really specify in a certain niche, and we can really use those to our advantage to learn certain topics like the ones I'm going to be discussing. And I will have some YouTube channels in this video that you can check out for each of these subjects. That way learning it is a little bit easier, and maybe you'll find one of these channels very helpful in your learning process. So the first topic on the list is very broad, but it is web development in general. And I'm talking about learning how to code in HTML, CSS, and maybe a little bit of JavaScript. So a couple reasons why I chose web development in this stack of languages is number one is just ease of access, and barrier to entry is very low. So when you get into programming HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, the information out there is so plentiful, and a lot of it is just very good. And the second reason is I just think for a new programmer, it's very valuable to get a instant result from the code that you write, and in seeing it in an application that you see every day. So we look at web pages all the time, I mean multiple times a day, and when you start writing HTML and CSS to style it, and maybe some JavaScript to add some backend functionality, or whatever the case may be, it's very fulfilling even to a programmer that has done it for quite a while, and especially to a new programmer, when they can run it in a browser and instantly see the results of the code they've written. So I think that's super powerful and very motivating for a new programmer to see the code that they wrote go into effect in a browser and how it would display on a web page. So quickly going over what HTML, CSS, and JavaScript is for a new programmer. So basically, HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, and it's the language that a web browser can interpret and display a web page with. And the way it's formatted and appears in our browser is all done by CSS, which stands for Cascading Style Sheets. CSS can control position of things, color of things, sometimes even animation of things, so quite a bit, and even way more than what I just mentioned. So it is all how it shows up in the browser. And lastly, JavaScript is a scripting language that can run both client side and server side, and basically it can be used for a plethora of things to make your web page more interactive. So luckily in web development, like I said, the resources are extremely plentiful. And when it comes to any of those languages to start learning, I highly recommend W3 Schools as far as the website for learning this stuff. So W3 Schools is one of the largest developer sites in existence. And like I mentioned, it contains HTML, CSS, and JavaScript languages for web development, but also so much more. Within JavaScript, it has most of the most popular libraries used, and then it has other languages too, like Python, C#, C++, another web development one, PHP, and there's even more. But W3 Schools has just so many different topics that it covers as far as programming languages go, and their tutorials are just spot on and very easy to go through and understand. The biggest thing I like about their tutorials is you can select a language and it has many subtopics within that language, and when you click on one of those, it brings you to many examples that they have that you can go through. And not only are they just examples of written code, but you can actually click try this code or some kind of button like that, and you can actually try it out, and it'll bring you into a runtime environment where you see the code actually running, and you can modify it to try some different things, and it's just super helpful to really get an idea of how the code works. And W3 Schools is no exception to what I mentioned earlier in this video. It is a public website, a public learning tool that is completely free to access, and I really can't stress it enough to check out this website for, any programming language that you're learning. If it has it, that is a really great place to grab the information from. So the next topic is another programming related one, but it's quite a bit different, is Unity game development. And the reason why I chose this one is, of course, once again, Unity is a free game engine where it does have different tiers, some that you can pay for, but for personal use you can actually get the software for free and start developing games. Another cool thing about Unity game engine is the cross-platform capability, not only for installing the software and creating games, which can be done on Windows, Mac, and Linux now, I believe, but also the export process. So you can export your games in quite a few different ways. They have exports for just basic Windows desktop, Mac OS, mobile development too for iOS and Android. You can deploy to web, and there's quite a few different deployment options for your game projects, which is really cool. So you can see your games on a pretty wide variety of devices. And not only is there a available free version of Unity like I mentioned, but right now with the global issue going on, Unity actually has offered 3 free months of their platform training, which is pretty cool. And it's actually done by some of the developers and some of the people that work straight from Unity. So other options as far as training goes is there's a lot of great YouTube channels that specialize in Unity game development. And a couple I have listed are Bracky's. Bracky's channel is so great because he has a wide variety of videos showing you fundamentals of Unity game development, along with full series and playlists that cover how to build your first 3D game from start to finish. And it goes through everything to get your first 3D game up and running, and I'm sure he has stuff like that for 2D games. But he also has individual videos that cover some different problems that we might not think of as we get into game development, like how do I build a menu, how do I build a first person player, all kinds of stuff like that. And his channel is really good, and as far as his teaching goes, he's very methodical, and you can really follow his videos step by step and end up getting the same results that he gets. Another channel that I've been watching is Saiku. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but he is another one that specializes in Unity game development, and I think particularly he is a level designer and been doing it for quite some time. But he has a lot of different tutorials and videos on some of his Unity game development, and a lot of his videos are very helpful as well. And the great thing about these two guys when it comes to Unity, they really know the platform very well in and out. I believe they are both sponsored by Unity. Another really cool feature with Unity is the Unity Asset Store. And the Unity Asset Store contains many different objects you can either put in your 2D game or 3D game, A lot of them are paid, unfortunately, but there are a lot of really good free assets you can use as well. So you can build a game from start to finish without doing almost no 3D modeling or 2D modeling, and you could have a game up and running just using assets from the Unity store. So discussing modeling, that's going to segue us into the next topic, which is 3D modeling. So as I've started to get into a little bit of game development and working with Unity, I've wanted to create some of my own custom assets I can import into my 2D or 3D project, and this can all be done with other 3D modeling software out there that has a little bit more features and a little bit more functionality for creating 2D or 3D objects, mostly 3D objects, but one I would like to recommend to you guys is Blender. So Blender is a free open source software that is used for 3D computer graphics. So Blender is used for a plethora of things, obviously the first one being 3D modeling, as I mentioned, but other things like animated films, visual effects, 3D animations, and like I said, quite a few different things, but more specifically we're going to talk about 3D modeling because this kind of links with Unity, as in Blender you can actually build your own 3D assets and then import them into Unity, which I think is huge. Unity does have some 3D modeling plugins like Pro Builder, which works pretty well, but some people that you'll find on YouTube, a lot of them sway towards Blender just because of its increased functionality. So I myself am very new to Blender and very new to researching Blender, so I don't have a whole lot of resources that I specifically go to, but there is one YouTube channel that I'm finding to be most helpful, and that is Blender Guru. And his channel is very up to date as he's always posting new content on Blender, and that's a very important thing, not only with Blender but with Unity and all the other topics that I mentioned, is you try to find the most up-to-date content possible. I've seen a lot of videos on Blender that are quite a bit older and the interface is just totally different, so I would kind of sway away from some of those videos, unfortunately, just because it's going to be kind of hard to learn when they are versions and versions behind the version we're on now. So that's going to kind of wrap up this video, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you found some new tech topics to consider when it comes to web development, game development, and 3D modeling. So kind of random, kind of broad topics, but maybe it's something that you'll find you really enjoy if you give it a try. And there's really not much to lose here. I mean, just time. All the resources that I have mentioned are free. The training's free, so it's definitely something you can get into and try out, at least test the waters to see if it's something that you like. I mean, who knows, it might spark, you know, a new career that you want to dive into. And the cool thing about this video too is these aren't just tech topics that I've just pulled out of my ass to, you know, throw on this video and say, hey, you guys try this out. No, this is actually stuff that I'm just starting to learn too. Web development I've been doing for a little while now, a couple of years probably, both as a student and a little bit professionally in a workplace. But when it comes to Unity game development and Blender 3D modeling, I am very new to it. You know, just installed the software recently, just started going through tutorials and how to do it. So it's something that I'm doing along the way as well, which is kind of cool. And just some disclaimers to end on that I definitely want to. Number one, you guys don't need a supercomputer to run any of this software. My work computer, which is kind of a toaster, it's very, very low specs. It can run Unity and Blender, and I haven't had any issues. But obviously, the better hardware you have, the better experience you're probably going to have. So, but to get into this stuff, you don't need a couple $1,000 computer and up. And as long as it meets the system requirements and your operating system, it should work just fine. And they don't take up a whole lot of room on your hard drive, which is another nice thing. And final disclaimer, I am in no way affiliated or sponsored by, you know, the software that I mentioned, those companies, or any of the YouTube channels that I mentioned. These are all just resources that I have recently used as a consumer and just thought it'd be something cool to put into this video and share with you guys. So if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to give us a thumbs up, and if you want to see more tech related videos, make sure to subscribe. As always guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.